What if I told you that studying can be as fun as playing video games? It's impossible, right? No. I have found the secret to turning studying into a game. After years of trial and error, finally figured it out. Look at this fascinating study. Two groups, 25,000 participants each. And they are both presented with a coding challenge. One group is harshly penalized for any mistakes, while another group is just asked to try again. And which group do you think has the highest success rate of completing the challenge? The people that were not penalized. If you are not penalized, then you are more likely to succeed in tests and challenges. That is very weird. That goes against everything we believed, right? Because when you think about, oh, I'm under pressure, I work better, right? This is what I thought. But this study says otherwise. But why is it like that? Why is it that if you have less pressure, you work better? Well, I'll tell you why. They noticed something else in the study. That the group of participants who succeeded more had more failed attempts. Because they were not so scared of failing as compared to the other group. So they failed more and as a result learned more. This phenomenon is coined the Super Mario effect. A funny name, right? It has a reason for that. Because this is exactly what happens with video games. You are not scared of the consequences of failing. You simply aren't. No one, and I mean no one, buys a new game, tries it out for the first 10 minutes, loses, and then quit the game forever. They simply try again and they keep doing that until what? They beat the game. One of the key secrets to loving what you do is removing that pressure. This is where you will enjoy studying that much more. If you get a bad grade, you should adopt the approach of, oh well, this sucks, but let me try again. Exactly what we do in video games. Same thing. I mean, same exact concept. Because it is a learning process. Paradoxically, you're actually limiting yourself from learning by not failing. So I cannot stress this enough. Please do not worry about failing when you study. You might tell me, Abadi, I feel like I can't really focus. Even if I have that mindset, after 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I just get really bored. Why does that happen? There is a very straightforward reason for why this happens in studying and not in video games. Let me explain. You first buy a game or you first try out a new game. How long do you spend learning the controls? 15 minutes? 20 minutes max? That is the total amount of input your brain receives. It's not a lot, right? So what do? You start playing, you enjoy it, you have a good time, and as you progress, you learn more, but you use that knowledge and you keep going. You progress across the levels, and the challenge becomes harder and harder and harder until you beat the game. That is why it's so fun, because you learn, but you also use that information to get through the next level. So in a sense, it's a process of input, output, continuously. What happens in studying? Studying, the experience is completely different. You start learning something new, okay? Maybe you're learning a lecture, start making some notes. As you go along, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, you get really bored. Why? Because you are only receiving information. That is the key distinction. If you keep receiving information and force-feeding your brain this input, eventually your brain will say, I had enough. Stop giving me new information. So what do? You have to have an outlet. Like in video games, you have to have an outlet where you release this information. So, with that being said, what can you do that can act as an outlet for your brain and allow you to use this information to see if you actually understand it? That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call active recall. I'm sure you've heard of active recall. It is so powerful. Active recall is recalling information from your mind, from what you learned, and projecting it outwards. You can do mind maps, and in my opinion, one of the most effective methods is doing past papers or questions. And then you do the same thing that we discussed before in studying. Input, output, and it will be so much more fun for you. Input, the knowledge that I just learned. Output, the question, I will solve it to see if I understand, and then I will move on to the next challenge, and I will deepen my understanding of this. Do you see how better that sounds? Also, have you realized something in video games? There is a lot of leveling up, trophies, first places, that is not a coincidence. We as human beings are very simple creatures. We crave achievement. The more we get, the more dopamine we get, and the more dopamine that we get, the more signals that get to our brain that we are on the right path. But in studying, that can be a bit vague. How do you know you're on the right path when you study? But what if I told you have something that is so powerful in your hands, but you're not using? You know those learning objectives that they give us at the start of the class or start of a lecture? They are so important. Why? Because these learning objectives are like the video game objectives. They state very clearly what you need to know. There's no confusion. It will be like, okay, if I know these learning objectives, then I finish this lecture and I can be confident enough that even if I went to a test, I can score very high because I know that I finished these objectives, because it allows you to break down this horrible lecture into small, manageable chunks. Also, you might ask, oh my God, I wanted to study for 10 hours plus, but I don't know how. I keep wanting to study. I tried everything, the mindset, everything, objectives. It's not working out. What should I do? I have the solution for you in this video. And that wraps up our video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you can hit the like button for me and subscribe for more content. And as always, Assalamu alaikum.